Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. We are glad that you're here with us celebrating this third Sunday in this month. We come to give God the glory, the honor, and the praise. So we encourage you to get your family together and bring everyone in one room and let's worship God together. Hallelujah. You are mindful of me. How you I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me. Because it was nobody but you who brought us from then up until now. And before we go any further, we have to pause right now and simply say thank you. God, many people have gone from labor to reward just this week. But we thank you because you kept us here. And on this Sunday morning, all over this country, we say thank you. Not only do we pause to thank you for what you've done, but faith tells me to be glad about what you're going to do. Yes. And after today, my life will never be the same. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Good morning. Let me share something with you this morning. It's found in the 14th chapter in Matthew's Gospel. It's a very familiar story. If you've been in anybody's church, you've heard this story. And I think for some reason, I believe it's a good time to hear about it again. Matthew chapter 14. I want to run your finger down to verse 26. Listen to what Matthew says. In Matthew chapter 14, beginning at verse 26. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit." And they cried out for fear.
But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer. It is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, then bid me to come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Amen. Amen. I want to talk for a few moments from this thought, a test in the midst of a storm. Amen. A test in the midst of a storm. You know, ever since I've been in anybody's school system, even when I was a young kid, we took tests. Find ourselves every day taking tests. Yes. On an average, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, it has been said that a kid will normally take 112 standardized tests. I remember from being in the school system many, many years, one day we were administering a test to a kid and we were passing out the pencils and the test booklets, and this young kid just slammed his test down and slammed his pencil down and just howled out in the class, I'm tired of taking tests. I don't want to take any more tests. And I had to assure him that, son, this test is not the last test you're ever going to take. Because you need to understand that life, every day, it's a test. In this country and in this world, we are going through some tests right now. And no teacher, even though they administer the test, I need you to hear me, no teacher ever gives you a test in hopes that you will fail. But the test is never given to see if you'll fail. But the test is given to see what you've learned in the process of learning. You know, many of us, from our youth, we were taught about the miracles of Jesus, whether it was healing a paralytic, or turning water into wine at a wedding in Cana. We all have our standout miracle that we really, we talk about more than the others. It's no doubt a miracle in itself took place one day when Jesus took a 2-piece fish sandwich and fed 5,000 men and their families. That was a miracle in itself. But there is one miracle that Matthew, Mark, and John recorded in their Gospels. Matthew reports it was the 4th watch of the night and Jesus came to them. If you read the text, Jesus appears out of nowhere. And that's what he does. Just when we least expect it, he shows up. And to some folk, even those of you that are sitting here and those of you that are watching this, to some folks that's good news that he shows up just when we think all hope is lost. Yes, that's right. Notice where Matthew says that they are. Matthew says that they're in the midst of the sea. Not only is the sea not cooperating, never mind that it's dark, never mind that the waves are tossing, and on the top of all of this, they don't know where the Savior is. I don't know if you've ever been through something and you just didn't know where Jesus was. The same Savior, the same Jesus that had been in a ship with them earlier in Mark chapter 4, the same Jesus that rebuked a devil-sent storm. Maybe if Jesus was on board this time, it may have calmed their fears at 3 a.m. in the morning. But this time, it appears it's just them. You ever been in a situation and it felt like you were the only one that's going through this thing, and it seemed like you were going through it all by yourself? I like verse 25 because verse 25 says Jesus went to them. Isn't that good news that when we can't get to him, he can always get to us? No boat, no problem. Now, let's not talk about the disciples. Let's don't blast them. Let's don't throw them up under the bus lest we forget we're all human beings. And it troubled them, just like many of us would have been troubled to see what appeared to be a spirit walking on the water between 3 and 6 in the morning. We all at some point have experienced our own fears. And you know what? You know what one of man's greatest fears is? One of his greatest fears of man is the fear of the unknown. Many of us don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know where we're going to end up in society after this virus has subsided. But you got to understand that many of these disciples were fishermen by trade, and if anybody should have been in their comfort zone, in their element of comfort zone on the sea, should have been these fishermen by trade. But every now and then something will pop up in your life, something that's bigger than you, something that you haven't seen before, and it will put you in a mode of panic. The sea, we understand as a fisherman, the sea was their comfort zone. The sea that had been their livelihood, the sea that had one night been an economical it disappointed them one night, because one night they had been fishing all night long on this particular sea and have caught nothing. But it's dark in the midst of the sea. The ship is tossed with waves. The wind is contrary. It's not agreeing with them. And they see something that they had never seen before. Every now and then storms come our way. We're nobody's exempt from them.
That's right.
They all come. But sometimes a storm like we've never seen before will pop up. Yes. Matthew says that they cried out for fear. I get it. But this is not their first storm. If you recall, somebody thought enough over in St. Mark. Somebody just remembered when they went through this first storm, this initial storm. I don't know which disciple it was, but one of them remembered in the midst of a storm that they had Jesus on board.
Yes.
I submit to you today that he's closer than you really think.
Yes.
The game changer is in verse 27, when it says, but straightway Jesus spake unto them. Y'all know something happens when he speaks.
Yes, it does.
Big Mama used to say, speak, Lord Jesus. He spoke when there was fear. Before he spoke, they were afraid. Before he spoke, there was doubt in their minds. Before he spoke, there was uncertainty. But it is when he spoke, every now and then, I don't know about you, but every now and then, I'm reminded of that song in The Color Purple. Every now and then, I need him to speak to me. I need him to let me know and rest assured in my spirit that everything is going to be all right. You know what faith is? in these days and times, we have had to exercise our faith with people being laid off and people don't have income and means to the end. We've had to exercise our faith like never before. Faith, really, actually, faith is hearing the music before you even see the band. Right. Verse 27 says, Jesus spoke to them. And that's not a day go by. I don't need him to speak to me. That's what it says in verse 27, y'all. It says that Jesus spoke to them. But watch this. Only Peter answered. He spoke to all of them. But only Peter answered. That was an old song that the saints used to sing back in the little church where I was baptized. It simply said, when he calls me, I will answer. I cannot answer for you, but Jesus spoke to them. But only Peter answered. One thing I like about Peter, Peter waits for clearance before he takes off into the water. No pilot ever takes off first before he gets or she gets clearance from the tower. I don't know what possibly might have happened had Peter just jumped out of the boat without getting clearance from the Savior. Maybe Peter had been in a Sunday school class early on in his life. Maybe at this moment he may have remembered the 3rd chapter of Proverbs. Maybe, just maybe, the current situation joined a Bible verse in his mind. That Bible verse that says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not to thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. And he shall direct thy path. Peter now knows it's Jesus. How does he know it? Because he hears his voice. I don't see him, but I can hear his voice. I don't think, as I hurry on to close, I don't think Peter immediately left to go to the other side of the sea instantaneously. I think that was a time that he thought about it, but then he realized that he would never get to where Jesus was if he stayed in that boat. Yes. Isn't it amazing? Because I believe there's a possibility that the other disciples that were there in the boat tried to stop him from going out there. And a lot of times you can't tell people your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations as to where you want to go and what you want to be. A lot of people are not ready. They can't handle where you are now to where God is taking you. Finally, when I read this, it sent a message to me that there are 2 kinds of people. When I read this, there's 2 kinds of people. You got sea walkers, and then you got boat people. Boat people can't go where sea walkers go. They're not there yet. Boat people would rather stay in their comfort zone. Sea walkers operate outside the box. Yes. I like Peter because on this particular night he became a sea walker. And you will never ever be a sea walker hanging around boat people. Some of us are sitting out here right now. God has told us to come, but we've let boat people stop us from getting that. Yes, sir. Finally, I like verse 29 because it says he walked to go to Jesus. Sometimes if you want to get to where people are, you got to make an effort yourself. Up until now, what Peter is doing had never been done before, and it would have never happened had he not thought outside the box. Yes. And it is a testament of Peter's initial faith. He does something that only he as a human could relate to. Nobody else could relate to walking on water. Watch this. Had he stayed there and listened to the boat people, Peter would have missed out on an opportunity of a lifetime. He would have missed out on a lifetime experience to do what had never been done by a mere man. He had a choice to be boat people,
Yes.
but he chose to be a sea walker.
Yes. Yes.
Teachers will tell you that many a student have flunked tests because of two things. A lot of times we flunk tests for two reasons. Number one, because we have a short attention span. Our attention span is short. We can't. And the second reason why a lot of times we flunk tests is because we lose focus. As a teacher myself, I've administered many tests. I always tell students to focus and pay attention. Don't be in such a rush to get through the test. Finally, I understand what many of you may be going through. But I want you to know that this morning, my fear will not keep me from getting to where Jesus is.
Yes.
Finally, verse 31 says, and immediately. The text says, and immediately, Jesus. You know, I believe it was Big Mama that said he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. The old preacher would tell you, as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus,
Right.
he was able to do what had never been done by man before. But a lot of times we start sinking because we take our eyes off of Jesus. During this pandemic, during these times of unemployment and layoffs, during this time of pink slips, during this time of food shortage, he's still a way maker.
Yes, he is.
I like this because Peter was sinking and immediately, watch this, God, through his son Jesus, called him. You know why you're sitting where you are today? You know why you haven't been consumed by the fears of life? It's because you've been caught by a Savior.
Yes.
That's why you can keep on going and be an inspiration to somebody else and lift up and hung down head from somebody else, because you yourself, you know what happens when Jesus catches you, when you can't even catch your own self.
Yes.
That's why I don't know about you, but I've been caught. That's why I'm here this morning, to let you know I've been caught. Then Peter exemplified a watch this moment experience. I like this because there's a possibility that before he got out the boat, he may have looked at those doubters and said, loose me and let me go.
Yes.
He had to watch this moment. Watch this. Watch what God does for you in the days coming up.
Yes.
Yes.
And then most people could care less about what you say.
That's right.
The old people used to tell you all the time, talk is cheap. A lot of times people don't care about what you say, they focus on what you do. Peter did have faith. This particular morning, he exemplified that faith. We came to find out that he just had a little faith, because Jesus said, oh, you have little faith. But a little faith is better than no faith at all.
Yes.
The last test you took is probably not the last test that you're going to take. But thanks be to God, no longer will I be relegated to being a boat person. I'm going to go out there and see what my blessing is. Just remember, what we're going through in this country, it's just a test of our faith. Some people have said we're heading for trouble There's a God for the trouble. There are some things and some aspects I've learned about trouble. You don't have to go out looking for it. It'll find you. And then trouble is not prejudice. It's at your house. It's at the neighbor's house. And it's at the White House. But then there's another aspect about trouble. It don't last always. Come on, bow your heads right now. God, I thank you. And I love you for what you're doing right now. I am nothing without you. Sometimes, God, I may have to leave other folk in the boat to get to where I need to be. Doesn't mean I'm better than you. We're just kind of going in different directions. So God, thank you. And we love you. In Jesus' name. Amen. May God bless you. And may God keep you. Is our prayer. We'll see you again on next Sunday. Thank you. Amen. Again, this morning, I want to thank you for tuning in with us. And as always, we appreciate if God lays it upon your heart to sow into the ministry of our church. If you can go to www.NBBWE.org, there are ways and people on there that will gladly accept your gift, your love gift, and we thank you because, again, it is more better to give than it is to receive. And we thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you again on next Sunday. Be blessed.